Yes. It was very good. So damn good that I decided to record in the dungeon and the light, which is unheard of. But yeah, nah, this is pretty much just me ranting and just sharing my thoughts about Fantastic Four. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the movie yet. Like I'm getting into the thick of it. Call me KSI. It's like it's going to get deep here. So there's your spoiler warning. Back out, go watch the movie, come back. First and foremost, I think that I should start off immediately with all the good because I have more bad than good for this movie. By the way, this movie for me was somewhere around a 7 out of 10 for me. 7, 6.5, maybe 7.5. I'm gonna say 6.5 to 7.5 out of 10. So let's just get straight into it. Immediately, first thing that I think I should say that I think a lot of people were probably going to agree with this take. It's not a hot take or anything like that. Is that Vanessa Kirby carried this movie 100%. Like, she was the best thing that this movie had to offer, in my opinion. From her line deliverance to her moments with her power usage, just to her decision making. Like, everything in this movie was surrounding her was pretty executed pretty pretty well. I think that when she spoke, you listened. Well, not you in particular. Like, when she spoke, the audience listened. Because every time that she spoke, it like you felt what she was saying. You know, when she was angry, you felt her anger. When she was sad, you felt the sadness. When she was scared, you felt that too. Like, whether it was her facial expressions, her body movement, or just the way that she delivered her lines, it was great. I think that making her the highlight figure of this movie rather than Reed was a good idea. With having, you know, Franklin being introduced and all that, making the mother sort of the highlight character. That's how I took it. I think that she was the star character of this movie, and like the emphasis was put on her for a reason. Sue is the strongest out of the four of them, the five of them, if you want to include Herbie. I'm not including Franklin in that just because. I mean, it's pretty obvious he's a baby who has no idea how to control his powers until the very, very end, which we don't even know if he's controlling them or it's just out of emotion to bring Sue back. But yeah, that as well. The powers I am mixed on. I have good and bad for that. So let's just get into the good for that. The powers were cool. Being able to see them in action was cool. I think Sue's powers was very neat. The fact that she was able to hold back a cosmic entity or potentially cosmic god on her own, even though it costed her life, I think that was like, that's what I meant when I said that in my opinion, that makes her the most powerful out of the four. The fact that her alone was able to do that and do that alone. I keep saying the word alone. I don't know why. I thought that her powers were great. I thought the Thing's powers were great. And that too, I saw a lot of people complaining that, I'm going to turn this off. Nope, I'm going to turn it back on. I saw a lot of people complaining that the Thing barely got any screen time in this movie because they didn't want to show how bad the CGI was. And no, he had plenty of screen time. He was in damn near every scene. If anything, you could say that about Reed, Pedro Pascal, Mr. Fantastic. I feel like that was the case with him. And I could be getting that mixed up. They could have been saying Reed and I'm thinking of the Thing. Because personally, when I first saw the trailer, initial trailers, personally, I was thinking that it was going to be bad. Like, the Thing looked bad. I thought that it was a bad design. But I was pleasantly surprised during this film. I think that he looked decent, even though his head is the shape, like, he legit has a dick head. But besides that, I thought his design was great. Same thing with Johnny to an extent. There were really, really cool moments that were made really bad very fast. And my main issue with Johnny was just his eyes whenever he flamed on. That too. The motherfucker, he didn't even say flame on, not once. This entire movie did he say flame on. But they kept begging Ben to say it's clobbering time. They begged and begged and begged. Not begged, I'm gassing it a little bit. No, they were begging at certain points for him to say it's clobbering time. But Johnny, not once did he say flame on. I don't know I do know. That is not a Chris Evans Human Torch exclusive thing. That is Johnny's fucking tagline. I wish he said it at least once in this movie. I could be mistaken on that. Somebody let me know in the comments below. But from what I can remember, I also was going off of like 2 hours of sleep when we watched it. I did not hear him say flame on once this entire movie. Reed's powers were cool. I am on the fence about them, mainly just because like they looked nice, but I just really wish that we got to see a lot more of it. He doesn't start like I think he was the person that they were afraid to show too much of because of criticism, which sucks that criticism really scares studios away from trying, just throwing a dart out there, seeing if it lands. Um, I think they should have just went all in with Reed and his stretchy powers. They looked good here for the little bit of time that we got to see it. I guarantee you, next time I'm gonna go try and watch this a second time, and I'm gonna like write in my notes the time that we see him on screen. Like I'm gonna have a stopwatch and everything using his powers. I guarantee you, it would not be any more than about 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes tops in this entire movie that he uses his powers. Even Sue uses her powers more than him in this movie. Um, and all she's doing is just making shit invisible and adding force fields and stuff to shit. Like, she's using her powers more than him. There were some cool moments that I kind of was questioning, like when he's getting stretched out. When he's getting stretched out by Galactus, I really felt like he could have been fine. Like I felt like he should have been able to withstand that. The fact that he was knocked unconscious by that was is crazy, but I think it's just to show they have very clear limits. I think that's also what this movie was trying to show, that they have very clear limits. Another thing that I liked about it a lot was some of the set pieces, like the spaceship. The entire space sequence was really cool, and like going to Galactus's throne, I guess you could say, because it wasn't really his planet; it was more like a throne. Um, that was really cool. Just everything about the designs for the most part was really cool. Even like Silver Surfer looked great, and it's just somebody with a chrome filter. Like even that looked great. That's pretty much all that I had. Oh no, character banter, charisma, character interaction, things like that. That was also really good in this movie. There were a few weird, like awkward moments between Sue and Reed that I felt a little uncomfortable with, but other than that, everything else was great. I think that Things and Johnny's banter was perfect. It was chef's kisses, as well as Johnny's banter with the entire team, like how they view him and all that. It's like, the unserious comedic relief character. There were moments in this that I thought he really did well in terms of like how he interacted with the rest of the crew. And that too, I know I said Vanessa Kirby was really like the star of the movie, but it felt so refreshing to see Johnny Storm have a really good balance to his character in terms of his seriousness and comedic relief. Like his entire arc with the Silver Surfer, I think, was great. The fact that he really he locked in for a second. Like that's the best way to describe it. He really locked in. And the moment where like Sue was like, "All right, well, let's get Reed to decipher this." He was like, "No, no, no, no. Like I got this. You may not think that I got this, but I got this." And to see that pay off throughout the movie and towards the end of the movie, where he has this moment where he fends off Silver Surfer by himself, all mentally psychologically, by the way, like that's great. That like you would never expect that from Human Torch ever. That was awesome. I want to see more of that. I want to see more comedic characters finally being serious, because sometimes it sucks when comedic relief characters are only there for that. Like they get no character development. They get no growth. They are just there to make you laugh. That gets tiring after a while. And with Johnny in this movie, I am happy to say that that wasn't his entire character. Even the moments where he was supposed to be comedic relief, like he didn't make you feel like that was his only purpose. He made you feel like he was useful and added to the overall emotions that you felt during watching this movie. So yeah, that's another. Oh God, we just had a mega freeze there. It's because it knows I'm about to get into the bad. It knows. But yeah, that's another good thing that I have positive about this movie. On to the negatives. I have quite a few gripes about this film. Mainly being what we just talked about. The powers and the pacing and the scenes. Basically everything I just gave praise to, I have a lot of negative to say about it as well. First and foremost, I want to start with the pacing of this movie. It felt very, very, very much like this had so much cut footage from it. And I don't know, because like I said the exact same thing about Deadpool and Wolverine, that it felt rushed. This movie also felt rushed. I think that it could have gone with being baked in the oven just a tad bit longer. I don't know if they're trying to maintain the hype of the MCU repair that's going on right now with the recent releases and the recent statements and all that, with we're going to slow down on releases and we're going to take our time and actually care for these shows and movies. Like, I don't know if they're trying to ride that hype of like Marvel is slowly making a comeback and like this movie is part of that comeback. I still haven't watched Thunderbolts yet. I know Brave New World was a bit of a letdown. I didn't watch that either. I've heard that nothing but mostly good about Thunderbolts, and like very positive, refreshing comments. I know that Brand New Day just got a suit reveal, as well as a lot of like leaked stuff happening from that. So like, I don't know if they're trying to ride that Marvel hype train right now. But nonetheless, this movie feels rushed. There were a lot of transitions between moments and scenes that felt like something was missing. Prime example is when they're done fighting the Silver Surfer in the black hole. They're home. They're somehow home. And I know they slingshot out of the black hole. And that too, I love the homages that they paid to like Interstellar and Christopher Nolan in this. Like, even like there were certain shots taken one from one, or like one to one from Interstellar, of like them leaving the black hole area and all that. But yeah, there was no like transition scene. Like, there felt like there were moments or like conversations that we didn't get to see that we should have seen, of like them getting back to Earth. I'm pretty sure that they lost the warp drive part of their spaceship during the fight. So it was like, how did you warp drive back to... Oh, nope. I take that back. I'm just now remembering they had to get up to 0.88 light speed from the slingshot. But like navigation, like, there's just so much ambiguity that happens around that like moment, as well as like there's just a bunch of scenes like that where like one thing's happening and they're talking about one thing and then it just jumps to this thing. Another huge example is the space launch itself. Like, they were sitting there, Reed's writing on the chalkboard, figuring out solutions to this Galactus problem, and then it just cuts to, all right, well, here's our brand new spacesuits. We're going back up into space and we're going to go to Galactus himself. And it's like, yeah, but what happened to that entire chalkboard? Like, what is that? Can you explain that to us? Like, there's just so many things that get zero explanation. I don't know if it's because this isn't an origin movie or anything like that. Like, I get that, but still, I feel like we can't just have all of this just put in our faces and just us to just immediately know what's going on, immediately be caught up. Like, I know they got hit in the sky by cosmic or in space by cosmic radiations to get their powers and all that, but the movie just started with them finding out about Franklin, and it was just like, oh, okay, this is where we are in the timeline. Okay, cool. So like, they show us a montage of them beating all of their like typical villains and stuff like that, and that's cool. Speaking of villains, there's another huge gripe that I have with this movie, but I'll get into that towards the end. But yeah, it's cool, but like, what? Like, I don't know. I just wish we got to see a little bit more, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It left me wanting more, but not in the terms of like I was excited to see more, but more so like I'm kind of irritated that I don't know these things. Of like, I wish I got to learn more and understand more previous stuff, I guess. I'm not a hater on like not doing origin stories or like doing like continuation stories and stuff like that. I just looked like my computer plug was coming out the outlet a little bit. That scared me a little bit. But yeah, like, I'm not a hater. Like, I'm a fan of that. Like, I think The Batman is a great movie, a fantastical movie, and that's a year two movie. Like, stuff like I'm not a hater on that stuff. But yeah, that was like my biggest issues with like the pacing and all that. My second biggest issue is some of the writing and like characters, portrayal of the characters. I know I gave them nothing but glaze a little bit ago, Vanessa Kirby and all of them, but by the end of this movie, like, this movie had to work really hard to convince me that this was the new Fantastic Four. Like, this is the official Fantastic Four. Even though we just saw John Krasinski, a few years ago, like, which they like that. They didn't have to do any convincing. Like, that was just a great casting choice. I still think that like he should have gotten it over Pedro, but it is what it is. I enjoyed Pedro as Reed overall, but he did have his moments, and I'm going to get into those moments now. Cold, or the iconic genius intellectual character is what they were going for here. But it's very like it's very clear by now that there are so many different directions that you can take that character trope, of being the calculating intellectual genius, whether it's Dexter from Dexter's Lab or Tony Stark's Iron Man or Dr. Manhattan, or like there's just we've seen the different mediums that this could be taken in. I feel like the cold, cunning, zero emotion or lack of emotion, awkwardness was not the way for Reed. I think that what they were doing in the beginning was really where they should have like led with it, where he's like, I'm the smartest guy in the room. Nobody can figure this out but me. Only I know how to figure this out. I think they should have like led with that and went, dived a little deeper into that a little bit more. They didn't. They just kind of like left it at that. They did that like at the top of the surface. They focused a lot on the family stuff and all that and how they interact with each other as a family. Of like, like I will say that you felt like this was typical. Like this is like the stuff that they're dealing with is everyday stuff in terms of like how they deal with each other and interact with each other. Not Galactus. Galactus is not an everyday threat. That's not what I'm saying. But with being a family with superpowers and navigating and dealing with that, they did a good job at portraying that. But with Reed, there were so many moments of just monotone like dullness in his voice where he's like, I have to figure this equation out for my family, but I also have to save the world. I have to save both. And it's just like, where's the urgency, And it's like, honey, I'm saying I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sacrifice our baby, or I'm not going to sacrifice our baby. What I'm saying is I'm going to figure it out. And he's saying it just like that. Mind you, him and Sue are like on the verge of tears while they're talking about making this decision of like, should we give our baby up to save the world? And he's just like, I've done the math. I've done the calculations. It's the only way, but it's not the way that I'm going. And it's like, where's your emotion? Like, even like Sue is complimenting the scene very nicely. She's like sitting there, like you can tell, like with her, it makes sense to be cold in this scene, right? To be emotionless cold because it's my baby against the world. It's us against the world. So it makes sense for in this moment, in this scene, for her to be this cold, I don't give a fuck character when it comes to the world. And she wasn't even trying to be like that. She was just saying like, I don't care about that, but I like, I'm not the baby. It's not an option. Like it's not a choice. There is no discussion. And that was the conflict that they were having was like, Reed, you thought about it. And that alone is a problem. The fact that you thought about it is a problem. It makes sense that she's, oh my God. Like, it makes sense for her to be sitting there, like, with tears, forming in her eyes, and for her to be dead, like, not silent, but, like, whispering, sort of like, Reed. Like, because you can feel the anger. She is angry right now. Reed doesn't really, I'm not saying he should be angry or he doesn't have a reason to be angry, but, like, it just doesn't make sense that he's sitting there meeting that energy with like, I know I didn't say that I was going. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like Facade. It reminds me of Grace and it reminds me of Trip and Grace of like when they're arguing and they're like being extremely passive aggressive and they're like, well, honey, I told you I don't like that painting. And it's like, I know, I never said that you couldn't like the painting. I'm just saying that I hate our marriage and I wish that we divorced. And it's like, whoa, you just said a lot that requires a lot of emotion, And Reed just didn't bring it when I felt like it should have been brought. I've been speaking on just Reed for like the past 4 minutes. It's crazy. But yeah. So yeah, that was my issue with Pedro. I just felt like there were some times where, I don't know if it was the writing or his deliverance that fell a little short or like it fell flat for me. I did see or hear something about him when he was like getting into the role. He watched some of the cartoons and stuff and was trying to portray Reed as like that 60s bubbly, whoa gang, we gotta get a hold on this situation, lickety split. But the directors and stuff in the studio was like, no, absolutely not, you're overdoing it, dial it down like tenfold please. And maybe like this is that result, like this is that end product, is this, honey, what are you doing there? We're not doing that. It's like, all right, but I was expecting, I don't know, I was just expecting a bit more, like, especially during those scenes. Like, but he's like, you can't have my wife. You can't have my baby. And you cannot have my planet. And it's like, I don't know. I was expecting him to scream that, give me like a, you can't have my, I don't know, just something. Show us that you care a little bit more than this. And it's very particular for me. It's a very particular like ick for me or like turn off for me because I wouldn't care if it was during all of the regular scenes, but it's during these pivotal, high stakes, emotional moments where it's just nothing still. Like, it would have been even better if he did start to break in those moments because it shows that for him being the world's smartest man and all that, there are still things that he can't figure out, like emotions. Like, it would show that there are still some barriers that he has to overcome, and that would have done a lot for character development. Like I said with Johnny, to show this not serious, comedic, to show him being able to get into those moments of seriousness, to lock into, solve the equation, solve the riddle, like that was great. And that is character development. We didn't get to see any character development for Reed. The only thing we saw was, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to solve it. And I really thought that what we were going to see was, I can't solve this. How do I fix this? Damn it, I can't figure this out. And we got a little bit of that when like they were like, we don't know what to do. We all might be fucked. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I thought we were going to see a bit of like Reed breaking, not breaking character, but like breaking that stoic, leader mentality, attitude, and just start tweaking. But we didn't get to see that. The Thing is a brilliant scientist, doctor, physicist, because he was the jack of all trades this movie. I'm not complaining, but I don't know, it's just like some of the decisions and the characters, like creating the characters in this movie, just are interesting to me. The last gripe that I have, because I am talking way too long about this movie, is the powers and the impact of usage of those powers. I think Galactus was great. I think Silver Surfer was decent, but the four, mainly Sue, mainly Thing, or mainly Sue, and no, mainly the four altogether. Like, there were moments in this movie that felt lackluster in terms of how they use their powers or the impact from using their powers. The biggest example, and right off the bat that I'm going to get out the way now, is the final clash, the final fight between Sue and Galactus, which, by the way, this is why I say, one, she carried the film, and two, it's very clear that she's the most powerful in this film, is because of this moment, where she is using all of her power to hold off, or to fend off Galactus and push him into the portal. And it's very clear, like, there are definitely a lot of moments in this movie where you can see the character wasn't looking at anything, or like couldn't imagine what they were looking at. Another prime example, this is off tangent, but another prime example is whenever Natasha Lyonne's character is talking to Ben, when there's a specific moment, it's when they're talking in front of the kids and she's at and they're at the school. There's a specific moment where the camera's at an angle where they're both on screen, but her eyes are not looking at him at all, but she's talking to him and she's like just looking off. Like, you could tell she didn't really know where to look because he's not present there. Like, that's one of the few moments in this, that's one of the few moments in this where like I was able to see it right then and there, clear as day. Like, oh shit, like you can tell she doesn't, like, he's not actually like there. Like the shit just ain't matching. You know what I mean? IRL to the footage, it's not matching. But that, tying back to the main moment, Vanessa Kirby against Galactus, like, to see the brute force of like what she's doing, you are holding back a cosmic entity, a cosmic god, really, full force trying to invade your planet or trying to step forward. And granted, I'm not going to say full. I'm going to say full force in quotations because it wasn't Galactus. Like, Galactus. I'm starting to get fucking excited, tripping over my own words. Galactus can change his physical form at will, like size and all that scaling. So that's why I put quotations around full force, because full force probably would have just legit been his mouth over the planet. But yeah, that moment when she's like pushing back and forth, the only thing, this is what's happening. And it's just like, I don't know, like I feel like there should be blood, there should be like screaming, like I wasn't looking for like 11 in Stranger Things. You know how Millie Bobby Brown's facial expressions be whenever she's using her powers, but like that, it would have added a little bit of depth to that battle. It would have showed like, holy shit, she's putting her all into it. It would have made her death a bit more meaningful. She died for her family and she died for her world, and it felt like it didn't take much for her to die. Is what I'm trying to get. Is like the point that I'm trying to get to. Just because like it was mainly just like her and her face. That's like the only complaint that I have about her. But it's also because of the environment around them. It felt like it was a tunnel vision beam clash. It felt like Chi-Chi and Broly were fighting, but it was them and nothing else in this entire plane of existence. There was no impact on the ground from her stepping. Like that's my biggest complaint, or like my biggest suggestion. I'm not a film director yet, but when she's sitting there pushing him back, like, and they're going back and forth, and she's like moving back and stepping forward, even though she doesn't have super strength, I think showing her feet crunching the concrete, like her feet piercing the concrete and cracking it around her footsteps, would have showed just how much force is being exerted between the two, and just how firm she is in her stance on that. Like, I'm pushing out so much energy that it's pushing me into the ground. You know what I mean? And even like they could have, if they wanted to work around that, the fact that she doesn't have super strength, she could have been like exerting her powers behind too, to like give herself a wall to push off of. You know what I mean? Like something to mount off of. And in that same exact scene, when Galactus gets pushed through the portal and she flies back, she doesn't fly back. She just falls backwards. I feel like if that was really like her death moment right there, she should have flew into a building, into a car, something to just make the impact feel, you know, give it that oomph that it's missing. Because there are a lot of moments in here that feels like they're missing oomph. You know what I mean? Same thing with The Thing. I love the Marvel Rivals team up being shown in the movie. Well, I guess I should say the movie team up being in Marvel's, being added to Marvel Rivals. That was a really cool call out, though. I will say I love the marketing and the press that's been happening around this movie. It's really cool. It's been one of my favorites. It's been one of my favorites in a long time. But yeah, like even like that, like when he drops them onto the building and stuff like that, I feel like that could have been a little bit more fantastic. Please don't shoot me. Same thing when he's like picking up the cars and stuff. Like I feel like if you're picking up like a 5-ton truck or however much that fucking oil tanker weighed, that would have been another moment where his feet could have broken the concrete. I don't know what I don't have an infatuation with cracking concrete or anything. But like that could have been another one of those moments where he could have, you know, shown some oomph to his powers. Johnny, I didn't really have any complaints on. I felt like his powers were cool. There were just moments where like the flames in his eyes didn't look right to me, and it made me uncomfortable. Like it looked uncanny to me, which is why I didn't really like the look of his powers at certain points. Like there were moments where it looked really good, like when he saved the little girl and he only had his back on fire so that she didn't get burnt. Like that was really fucking cool. But then he immediately switched to him lighting up his entire eyeballs and stuff, which looked weird. So like it ruined the moment for me a little bit. But just a little like nitpicks and stuff. Like I said, because of those cons outweighing the pros for me, at least, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's a great movie, a great watch, but I don't think it's anything to write home about. So yeah, I just want to talk about it a little bit. And by a little bit, I meant almost half an hour. I don't think I'm going to cut this down or edit it either. So that's about it for me. I definitely recommend, even if you've already watched this and you haven't watched the movies, or you've been watching, you know, reviews and stuff like that or breakdowns, I still would recommend going to watch the movie because it's a very cool movie. And if you have seen the movie, this is my first time watching it and I watched it in IMAX, I would recommend watching it in IMAX. Any moment that has Galactus in it during, or shown in IMAX is really cool. Like really cool. So I would recommend watching it in IMAX if you haven't. But that's it for me. Oh wait. Oh, come on, camera. Don't blue ball him like that. There we go. I'm throwing 4s up.